Welcome to Water Mythbusters channel. The channel exists to make water info simple, accurate, and useful by using evidence, and help people to highlight real-world water challenges.
Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating academic paper that tackles the incredibly complex issue of water security in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, or what's often referred to as POJK. Okay, so here's the paper itself, and what it does is frame water scarcity in POK as something much bigger than just a local problem. It's not just a humanitarian issue. The authors argue it's a potential flashpoint in the really tense water politics between India and Pakistan. And the core idea here is that what happens in this one region, well, it sends some pretty significant ripple effects across all of South Asia. So, here's how we're going to break this down. We'll look at the water crisis itself, the paradox around hydropower, the bigger picture of geopolitics and climate change, then a proposed solution, and finally, why this all matters as a regional flashpoint. All right, let's jump into our first section. And this really gets to the heart of the matter, what the paper calls a paradox of plenty. I mean, how can a region that's so incredibly rich in water be facing such a severe water crisis? It doesn't quite add up, right? So the paper kicks things off by putting POJK on the map, literally. And as you can see, it's right in the middle of one of the world's most water-stressed regions. I mean, look at those shades of red. We're talking high to extremely high water risk. This is a place where you've got this dangerous combination of melting glaciers and tense politics, creating what the author calls a silent but very real threat. And this quote really sets a stark stage, doesn't it? We often hear the Himalayas called the water towers of Asia, and for good reason. They provide fresh water for over 1 billion people, but the paper makes it clear, those towers are crumbling. The ice is disappearing at an alarming rate, and that has direct and honestly devastating consequences for everyone living downstream. So that brings us to a really crucial question. With all this water, how is it actually being managed? And this is where the paper introduces what it calls the local hydropower paradox. And believe me, it's a big one. Okay, check out this number. The massive hydropower projects in POJK, they generate something like 3,500 megawatts of electricity. That's a huge amount of power, and it's almost all being sent to mainland Pakistan. But here's where the paradox really hits home. Out of that huge 3,500 megawatt number, well, residents in the region say they only get about 400 megawatts back. You can imagine the result, right? Frequent, crippling power outages. And this has, not surprisingly, fueled widespread protests. People there see it as a deeply unfair deal. And this map really gives you a sense of the sheer scale of all this infrastructure. You can see the locations of these massive projects like the Mongala and Neelam Jhelum dams. These aren't small operations, and these are the exact projects that are at the center of all those local grievances we just talked about, the feeling that their resources are being exploited and their environment is paying the price. Now, of course, this local tension doesn't just exist in a bubble. It's being squeezed by two massive external pressures, a rapidly changing climate on one side and some very tense geopolitics on the other. To dig into this, the paper uses a key concept called blue water scarcity. And it's important to understand what this means. It's not just about whether it's raining or not. It's about when the demand for water from rivers, lakes, and so on simply outstrips what's actually available. And this is driven by two things: more people needing water and taking more of it out of the system. This chart really puts it all into perspective. Just look at where Pakistan falls. Right there in that upper right quadrant. That's the danger zone. It means both extreme water stress and a structural water deficit. So what does that mean in the real world? It means the region is incredibly vulnerable to both droughts and floods. It's a classic case of just way too much demand on a system that can't keep up. And then, layered on top of all this environmental stress, you've got the political complexity. We have to talk about the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. This was a huge deal, brokered by the World Bank. It basically split the Indus River system. India got control of the eastern rivers, Pakistan got the western ones. And you know, for decades, it was held up as this rare example of successful cooperation between the two countries. But the paper then explores a what-if scenario. A pretty chilling one, actually. It lays out this hypothetical but totally plausible timeline. It starts with a terror incident in 2025 that leads India to suspend the treaty. And with just that one move, everything changes. The decades of cooperation are gone, and hydropolitics would escalate dramatically. Suddenly, water isn't just about farming, it's about national security. So with all these crises piling up on top of each other, the paper's conclusion is pretty clear. The current approach just isn't working. It's failing. And what's needed is a fundamental shift in how we even think about water and the environment. And to really get what the paper is proposing, we need to compare two different ways of thinking. On one hand, you have what's called reformist or shallow ecology. You can think of this as trying to make the existing system more efficient, patching up the machine. But then you have radical or deep ecology, and this perspective says, hey, the machine itself is the problem. We need a whole new design. And the paper argues strongly for this deep ecological approach. Now, this is more than just planting a few trees. It's a whole philosophy. It's about completely reframing how we see water. Instead of it being a commodity to be bought and sold and exploited, it's a common good that needs to be protected for everyone. It's about recognizing that our well-being is fundamentally tied to the health of the entire ecosystem. So what does this look like in practice? Well, it's not just some abstract idea, it's a blueprint for governance. It means things like getting local people involved through watershed committees. It means putting much stricter environmental oversight on any big infrastructure projects. And crucially, it means shifting the focus to social equity, making sure we build up resilience for the very communities that are most affected by all of this.
Okay, so let's bring this all home for our final section. Let's look at how all these pieces fit together and really understand why the water situation in POJK matters so much, far beyond its own borders.
And here we have it, the paper's core conclusion. The situation in POJK isn't an isolated problem. It's a microcosm of all the larger issues plaguing the region. The author uses the analogy of a pressure cooker, and it's a good one. You've got local anger, resource exploitation, climate change, and big power rivalries all stewing together. And that creates a massive potential flashpoint for much, much wider instability. And that leaves us with the paper's final, and I think very provocative question. It really boils everything down to one central choice. Is the future of the Indus Basin going to be one of constant conflict over dwindling resources? Or can there be a shared, cooperative vision based on this idea of deep ecology? The path that's chosen, as the paper makes clear, will decide the fate of millions of people.
Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like and share the video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on water politics in South Asia.